Hello ladies and gentlemen, Dave Dobbs here. It's the 8th of July 2024 and hi there. We kind of got past the solstice. Not that I was expecting too much activity after the solstice, but it was a wonderful time to align with the forward motion of our sun and cosmically align, which is what I've been talking about on my channel really for the last, certainly for the last probably best part of 6 months really. You know, trying to realise that this is a big part of the message that's coming through for me at this time was understanding this forward motion of our sun moving down the moving in the you know, when we're here on the 21st of June, we're right in front of our sun moving forward, and there we've got our 4 planets moving around. And obviously this shot came in on the 2nd of June 2023, and I've opened with that shot because this is what was coming into view at that time. And as you just saw in that shot that I just showed, that was put up by UFO Mania. The truth is out there. Wow, Earth's dark twin, highly visible on Alaska's FAA weather cams. You know, we're getting all the crazy storms, aren't we? We're getting, you know, the storm that just hit Jamaica. Which one was that? Beryl, I guess. And is it Beryl also that's come in and then come further in and is now hitting? It first hit Jamaica and now it's coming into Texas, or it's coming to Texas. So we're getting storm surges. You know, in Jamaica they said it was one of the biggest storms they've seen this early, and it's, you know, for America it's the first named storm. But let's kind of face facts. It's been absolutely terrible in America for the last 3 months. It's been full-scale tornado season for the last 3 months, and the storm season is only just beginning. And what we've seen is the storms as we come to this kind of July-August period. We've just watched the storms get bigger and bigger, exponentially get bigger every year. And there's just no way of getting around that, as I often talk about, especially in the kind of southern aspects of China. You know, around the kind of on the Yangtze River, running down from kind of Sichuan province right down to Shanghai. You know, but you know, it's been incredible. And then last year it was the same level of flooding, but it moved further to the northern hemisphere. It was well, not that Shanghai and Sichuan are not all in the northern hemisphere, but further when we're sort of starting to see these storms migrating further north and affecting Beijing, which is what happened last year. So we're watching more of these storms enter into the northern hemisphere. In actual fact, this time last year we were seeing the Icelandic volcano going really, really, really intense. That was last year. And we at this time had probably about 42 volcanoes simultaneously going off, and then we got to kind of like September, October, and we're up to 61, the highest amount of volcanoes I've ever seen simultaneously going off. Remembering that right now Stromboli and Etna, they just erupted simultaneously at the same time. So these ideas that one caldera just kind of fills for whatever reason, and there's no interconnection between all of these things. When clearly there's a massive interconnection with all these things. But when you think Stromboli on a big eruption is pumping out, as I often talk about, 80 million tons of carbon dioxide in a single eruption, it's just absolutely flabbergasting how big these releases of carbon dioxide are, these natural releases of carbon dioxide are. And what we kind of don't see in this massive push to be carbon zero, or, you know, carbon neutral, or however you want to call it. You know, it's everything we're doing, it seems to smack in the face. We know every time we produce a car, it's going to consume 100 times more fuel than the car is ever going to consume in its lifetime. and we're going to put a carbon story behind the motivation of manufacturing that car. And so this type of greenwashing, when we're not willing to look at the natural massive volumes of carbon dioxide that are being released, and really truly understand how essential that carbon dioxide is for the process of this planet, and why, if you were going to terraform a planet, you'd be looking for a planet with volcanoes to release a type of carbon dioxide to create an ecosystem like we have. You know, we're in some funny old stories, and right now, if every storm has been exponentially bigger year by year since about 2017, 2018. You remember when May the 4th, 2018, we had Kilauea, the long duration volcano, and it broke a lot of records. And then 2021, and it was kind of like, it was Iceland, and then the big Iceland volcano, the longest duration volcano we'd ever seen since Galileo's time, since 1585. And then we had after the Icelandic, the long duration Icelandic volcano in 2021. Directly after that stopped in about August, you know, we had ironically La Palma going off, and it went off it broke all the records, even the records of kind of 1585. And now we're just seeing massive amounts of volumes of volcanoes simultaneously going off. We're watching the storms building up and developing, and they're just beginning, and they're massive already, and they've been massive for the last 3 months. And we just saw about 10 days ago, we saw it was listed as a 7.2. You know, I've seen the videos, and the few videos I'm getting are these lamps shaking, which isn't really indicative of what I would consider a 7.2 earthquake. But nonetheless, we had a recorded 7.2 earthquake about 10 days ago in Peru. Now, when we start then we saw Brandon Corey Nagley post this shot, and I've seen it in a few videos. I saw it in one short, and you know, the original video maker, I believe, called it what's looking like a comet, and it didn't look to be travelling fast, not shooting down here and coming at the bottom down here. It was as if it was just more or less sitting down there, as we would expect, and so, you know, I'm understanding that that this is the if we go back to remember the twins, as I call them, the twins, you know, crossing at this point over here, and you remember the 2016 shot of the twins in March 2016. These shots caught by Becky Lewis on the 28th of March. So where these two cross at here in the kind of like in the February-March position, they kind of cross over here in the July, in the kind of the May-July period, really, and you know, the fact that we had the earthquake in the southern aspect of the globe, i.e. Peru, is for me indicative that is these objects going out. Well, they haven't even gone out. They're just getting close to that point. We're not going to. We've done all the crossings of the twins over this side. In my opinion, I think we've done all of that. We're not going to be near them. They're going to be little tiny dots as we're seeing them, almost like this again. You know, very, very small. They're not going to be. You're not going to be big sightings like these, like this, the sort of sighting that put me on the map, the 2017 on the 21st of January 2017. They're not going to be big shots like that. The one that the shot that 8th of Jan 2019, shot by WSO. He doesn't make Steve Olsen. He stopped making videos now. It was all too much, and it's all been all too much for many video makers. And very much in the same camp, because truth be told, in this grand cycle of things, even though we had that shot posted by Nick Thomas on the 9th of July 2020, where we're starting to, we're over here and we're seeing this object heading towards us, and it's between us and the sun, heading, there's Earth there, and it's this, it's Jupiter really. It's I haven't got this in the exact right position because this would be further back, but you understand the whole proportions of this are this is trying to squeeze a massive amount of space into a very, very this is, the proportions of this are clearly not accurate, and that's a very, very difficult part. But fundamentally the cycles are correct, but not proportionally. We're stuck with trying to kind of bring things into kind of like into viewable parameters, and so that's pretty obvious really, I think, but we can nonetheless get the kind of like we can begin to understand the orbital mechanics through this whole through these what I now call orreries, these digital orreries, these digital astronomical simulations that enable us to kind of like go forward and back in time and build these models and build an idea of how all this moves, and start coming out of the static sun model that we've been living in for the last 500 years, and start a whole new start seeing things differently. But so we had this shot here, and for me that is objects coming, that's the twins, they've come in from the northern hemisphere and now they're going out through the southern hemisphere, but they're not even they're not going to cross Earth's path. We're going to carry on going around here, and at some point they're going to cross then. And well, let's just come to 2024 now, just to where we see where come to where we are. We see we've got 1, 2, 1, 2, and then the twins, and then this is Jupiter, what I'm calling the big blue one. And all of these are basically, we're going to go, we should go round and they should cross after us. Jupiter's going to be in my opinion, could be potentially the closest, but like I say, all of this model, we can understand that in the we get 2 points of crossing here, certainly for Jupiter here, and then we'd have to go, like I say, back to 2017, and we can start seeing that even then it wasn't that close because it didn't align here, but what year would it have been? The year when it would have crossed at this point here would have been around about 2016, when we would have been closest to it, but we wouldn't have synced up. So it seems that if something comes in on this side and then it's going to traverse the sun and then come out that side, sometimes in the big cycle, like in 1939 to 1945, this point was the closest aligning, synchronizing point between Jupiter and Earth. And this time, that first point, we weren't aligned here. In 2016, 2017, yeah, we were getting amazing shots of it, but like here, but we weren't as close to it as I believe we're going to be in round about this point here. This is looking like this point here is looking like it's going to be, I mean, already we're just seeing much higher volume of volcanoes than we've ever seen going off, and it's early, it's only we're just coming into July. We've got about the same amount of volcanoes as we had going off last year, except that, like I say, the extremity of it was in September, October. This year, I'm of mind the extremity of it is going to more likely be in August. That's what I'm calculating it to be because of all the data. Obviously, I might be so wrong, and all I can try and do is build these models to desperately try and understand where all these things fit in, and have this opportunity of using all this kind of software to not that this is not clever. You know, nothing I'm showing here is that clever really, but nonetheless, it is a way of building these models so we can get a window on them and piece them together and have a kind of an understanding of how these things are potential understanding. It may be way more complicated than I'm understanding, because basically what we're really seeing here at the moment is Jupiter and its moons all doing a flyby of all being so close to our sun that they're looping, that whatever Jupiter orbits is so close to our sun, i.e. Jupiter is orbiting this Herculobius, named after what Carlos Ferrada called it in 1939. And when he said the big flyby would happen on the 20th of January 1939. And using all these data and bringing all these different flybys, there's so many flybys, there's so much data that I've desperately tried to bring together. It's like a massive Sudoku. And so we're filling in the gaps, and we've got this beautiful, amazing bits of, we've got amazing kind of software now. This is, like I say, this is not amazing, but I'm not a software engineer. I'm not an animator. I'm not a you know, I just don't know how to use this to create this type of animation at all. I've never studied this, so I'm using kind of like software packages like in this case it's Universe Sandbox, and Sandbox is makes this sort of stuff, and they've got a program dedicated, Sandbox, Universe Sandbox, dedicated to building astronomical models. And that's enabled me to kind of build these models and to ask the what if questions and run these long duration models that enable me to go right back to 262. And thus, if I can go back to 262, i.e. if I can go back 1800 years, then I can go back 3,600 years, i.e. 2 times 1800, 3 times 1800, 4 times 1800. I can start getting big windows on the... You know, I found 262, I found the earthquakes, the 3 days of darkness, the earthquakes all across Asia, all across Europe, all across Africa as a result of using these models and building these models. And so they're not necessarily accurate, but they are a window on understanding. And so we can see, as I talked about in my last video, is if we go back to 2008, sorry, I've gone too far then. 2008, you know, we'd had the big flyby in 2004, as in on the Boxing Day 2004, and you can see Earth's coming around here and Jupiter crossed, and then we have the massive tsunami and what have you. But it was coming in under us in the southern aspect, affecting the Pacific. Now it's coming in above us, affecting the Atlantic, affecting volcanoes in the northern hemisphere, and that's what caused the Icelandic volcano last year, and that's heading down towards the ecliptic, so it's getting closer and closer. So we're seeing we saw a little bit of activity of Iceland. Not too much, but it's this same object, the same big blue object that's going to get closer and closer. So now Iceland's not going off. It's because it's closer to the ecliptic now, which means that, you know, we're talking about Vesuvius going off now. We're talking about big volcanoes. You know, the Congo, big volcanoes going off in the Congo now. You know, all these big volcanoes that are going to be affecting this planet now. It's you know, truly I just really don't know, but like I say, every year it's got July, you know, from July, August, the storms have been getting exponentially bigger, and there's no environmental models that are incorporating volcanoes, the massive increase in volcanoes. And that is so suspicious. That is so suspicious. Because if you're running a model based that humanity is causing all this carbon dioxide, and you're forcing humanity to make rash decisions which are going to grossly affect our lives detrimentally, then you've created a religion, you've created a cult, and the CO2 movement has become a cult. And whenever you become part of a belief which is not rooted in truth and reality and realness, you create a fundamentalism. You create a ecclesiastical kind of religion, a cult, and that can pull people down. You know, you might be the best person in the world, you might have the best intentions, but if you get together with a wronger and you do wrong, you know, you're still going down. If you get caught, you're going down. And we, you know, that's a big part of why I was saying, you know, it's such an important time now to align with the cosmos and to connect directly through the cosmos into the great intelligence of this, of the universe. Connect with that space and allow that space to connect with you and harmonize with great intelligence at this time, and harmonize with those energies that want to come in and help this planet and desperately come out of belief stories that aren't rooted in the Earth's well-being. They're rooted in power and control, mind control, and turning us into slaves through our beliefs so that we make utterly terrible decisions. Anyway, I did my little process. I didn't actually go to the Stones in the end. I tried to get a bunch of people together to come to the Stones with me, and it was just like my entire family of friends were all going up the. A few of them went to the Stones, but most of them were going to do a ceremony up on the tour, and so I decided to do that in the end, to be with friends and loved ones and go up the tour in Glastonbury, but nonetheless connect and divinely connect. And as I said, it doesn't really matter where you are in the planet. It's that you take that time to cosmically connect and allow the universe to cosmically connect with you, and to try and come out of any big story and to empty your glass a little bit. Empty your glass of what you think's going on, and just allow the bigger picture to be beyond your beliefs, beyond your mental controls, beyond your judgments, and allow the problems to be what they are, and to see them for what they are without having to throw them into a belief box. And you could see this as a belief box, but this is just an attempt to kind of see a bigger window of the system that we really live in from another perspective, where we try and take into account all this incredible seismology, all this massive increase in volcanoes, all this massive increase in megastorms, and to try and see the problems for what they are, and allow the solutions, the cosmic solutions that can come in through your connection to the cosmos, through your aligning with where you're really at, what the system you really live in. And so it's been a big time for me. And then I went off to Glastonbury, and I did a big process at Glastonbury. I got involved in the bar that I've been involved with for quite some time, the Gorilla Bar, which was really great. That was an enjoyable process. And for me, that's all about cosmic connection, and so to celebrate with lots of lovely friends, and to kind of be in a space where, that whole field for me, what happened there, after the Battle of the Beanfields, which was where Margaret Thatcher smashed up all the travellers' vehicles at the time of the solstice, when they gathered for their pagan kind of rituals, and she went in and just instructed the police to smash up the vehicles, terrorise the people, and it backfired, and it ended up with this massive migration from Stonehenge, and then there was the kind of like they just had to get out of there running, and then many of them went off and kind of like and took off to Glastonbury Festival and kind of staked out a field which became the Travellers' Field, and that's where the kind of the big battles between the kind of like the travellers and the security, and which led to kind of Mike Levis giving over that area, the Travellers' Field, to the Travellers, and that's where the Griller Bar is. And so the Griller Bar for many of us sits in this kind of like it's our own little bit of history of where there'd been a line that we'd had to stand upon, and so we kind of touched that kind of like that those feelings of standing up against a big agenda and aligning, this big cosmic aligning point, the 21st of June. Like I say, I've only kind of properly realised in the last year, really, that the 21st of June is also not only the kind of point where the Earth's axis is perpendicular, as in a right angle to the ecliptic that our planets all sit on. And we get this perpendicular point. We get it on the 21st of June, and we get it on the 21st of December, or we get it on the winter solstice and the summer solstice. And then after that point, there's no perpendicular point until only at those 2 points, and they represent also the front and the back end of our sun moving forward. And so they're wonderful points to kind of align, and that's why I'm of mind that these cosmic, why we celebrate these cosmic events, not just because we're understanding the seasonal potentials created by an axis that's where the Earth's at this kind of like this tilt, which creates our summer. At this point here, where when the Earth's directly on this 21st of June point, obviously the northern aspect of the Earth is closest to the sun, and the southern aspect is furthest from the sun. But it also, like I say, it represents the front end of our solar system, and to start aligning with this and to start cosmically thinking about that and cosmically connecting with that has been a wonderful opportunity to be aware. So anyway, I've been doing that, and I've so appreciate those who've supported me a little bit on Patreon. So I'm so sorry you haven't had that much content from me just lately. Like I say, I've really desperately tried to come out of my shell a little bit, because I realise that so much of the stuff that I talk about is just too much for audiences in Britain. It's a bit too much. The standard model is a very Christian model. It was dreamt up by very radical Christians. It is a static sun model. It leaves you with no understanding of where your sun's going. It breaks kind of the rules of kind of like of Kepler's fundamental rules of orbital mechanics. It doesn't fit into any logic. It's all the planets just going in a pretty circle and no notion of where the sun is going, no cosmic direction within that at all. And we've been living in a static sun model where every planet is given a different perihelion point. Every planet gives the notion that the sun travels in a different direction, which leaves us just with a static sun and all the planets going in a pretty direction, and no direction in that, no knowing your place in the scheme and the cosmic scheme of things. And that's hopefully what I'm trying to bring into this awareness of the cosmology that we could bring into our astronomical model if we so choose, if we come out of this radical Christian model that we've been living in. But most of us have been living in belief systems that we've been calling science, but there's been very little science really involved in them. They're just belief systems, they're religions, they're cults. And if we're going to go dive deeply into the cult now, or we're going to come out of the cult and come into something else. So we're all at that point. You can imagine that, like I say, when we come close to this big blue object, that we've seen so many shots of. Like I say, last year it was like I say, this shot here posted by Mr. MVB on the 2nd of June 2023. This massive blue object, first of all, it's Galileo says you can see the big blue object right there. Just like we said we could see the big blue object right there in 2018, massive blue, like we're seeing it now, but not in the night sky. We were seeing it enter into the night sky for a change. Now we're seeing this, Galileo saw it, then William Herschel saw it, it kind of, I don't know, 1781, and then, we'll see it again for Neptune. We'll see the big blue object, then we'll see it again for kind of like, when we're calling it Pluto. We just keep reinventing it pretty much every 84 years, and we're exactly 84 years after Carlos Rada's big prediction of it passing in 1939. We're at our 84-year period now. We're at the time where we can expect the biggest earthquakes, the biggest volcanoes, the biggest storms. It's right on cue, and it's a big thing to look at, and it's too stressful. Most people don't want to look at it. You're putting a date on doom, but I'm not trying to put a date on doom. I'm trying to understand astronomically how this whole model works, how the bigger system works, so we can finally get a window of our own cosmology. And that's what I'm trying to offer here. I realise that's my journey, and it's more than anything else. And so over the last few months, I've really tried to come out of my shell and connect to this story, to an audience in this country again. And I did that obviously up to about 2017, 2018. I did that, but sorry about that. It was we just in this country we it's the environmentalists, but when we lost so many of our environmentalists down this story of carbon zero, carbon neutral, however you want to see it, and we could have gone for so many things. We could have gone for so many wonderful things, but we were sidetracked, and people became fundamental, especially the environmentalists. They just became fundamental about carbon dioxide. They didn't want us. No one wanted to know about the volcanoes. Didn't matter how many volcanoes went off. No environmentalist would ever talk about them. Well, saying that, I did speak to an environmentalist the other day, and he was a highly educated environmentalist. He came round, and he was a lovely Irish guy, and he chatted for ages. He'd been doing talks forever, and he'd realised from the onset, early on, that the whole carbon story was a complete and utter red herring. It was a massive cult that had no real statistics to back it up. It was just all greenwashing bullshit. And he'd seen through it, and he decided to go on his own journey to try and bring awareness to the whole thing through his own way, as many do. But obviously, the biggest part of the whole environmental movement has now been utterly hijacked. And once someone's become religiously fundamental, it's unlikely you're going to pull them out of that in this life. It's not going to happen. Once you go down that corridor in belief, it's difficult to pull out of that. Very, very difficult to pull out of religion once it's got you. It's and if you believe that your belief in being carbon zero makes you good, and so you can derive a whole kind of sense of class about that, and you can build your income and on that, so you're financially dependent on that lie. then it's a curse. It's a total curse. And much of our environmentalism has become a massive curse, and it takes people to no good place. You know, and eventually realise that the only carbon they're going to really want to get rid of is you and me. And the rest is just greenwashing bullshit to make money in. And you're going to watch these massive volcanoes go off, and most are going to be utterly silent as we go into this now. This is a freight train now. And that's why I wanted us to align at this time, to try and bring in some help, to bring in some higher help to get us through this time. And but we can't get through this. We can't have the help if we don't want that help. As the Colburn Bible says, the Colburn was kind of unearthed in. It's funny, I want to talk about a few books actually. I was going to mention that actually, the Colburn Bible that was kind of released after kind of Henry VIII burnt the Glastonbury Abbey to the ground during the what do they call it? Was it the Reformation or basically Henry VIII just kind of like got rid of the Catholics out of the country and created the whole Protestant church, the protesters or whatever, the Protestant kind of movement that was kind of standing in the way of the Spanish Inquisition. And after he burnt down the Glastonbury Abbey, a book was released called The Colburn, and it described the movements of this massive dragon. And you'll see, there's one of my videos, you'll see the Colburn Bible, and it describes this whole process that we're seeing now, all the things, the massive earthquakes, the massive volcanoes, the ground opening up, and sinkholes, and tsunamis, and tidal surges, and kind of like boulders falling from the sky, and big dragon-like things flying by, all the stuff we're seeing now. And it said that when they came down from the mountain, from their hiding places, they knew not who they were. They knew not their names, who they were, and they were just as babbling fools. And it says that humanity isn't punished for the mistakes they make, but for the mistakes they fail to rectify. And that was the account of the big dragon flying by, that it settled the equations, it settled the karmic equations. As well as kind of there was this massive door that opened at these times, and when I talked about that channeled material that I read of the Aquarian Gospel of Christ, or Gospel of Jesus, I can't remember what it's called now, but I talked about it in the last few videos, and talked about the Ark of Heaven and this kind of point that I described, like I say, from 1939 to 1945, when we were last passing, when Vesuvius last went off, when we were getting so many long duration volcanoes and so much kind of activity and big flybys, and the stuff that we're getting now, just not as intense as we're getting it now. But it's still pretty intense, and still pretty massive. Certainly we wage wars. And now we've seen the same thing, 2017, and we get Trump coming into power right on the time. Trump coming into power right at that, Trump's inauguration right on that. What was it? 2017, wasn't it? That this coming in right on the time that he's inaugurated. And the reason I mention that is because it's so strange, isn't it? That when I think about, I don't know if any of you have read the 3 books written by, ironically written at the same time, as the Aquarian Gospel of Christ. you know, like I say, it was channeled. It wasn't a translation. I upset a few people about that at Glastonbury. You know, and with quite a lot of kind of like stuff going on. You know, it was an interesting gathering because you can imagine that the election was just after. We didn't know which way it was going to go. We don't really know which way Keir Starmer is going to go. I mean, we can pretty much guess, but you know, it's but there's been elections all across the world, hasn't there? Lots of such an interesting time, and certainly what's happened in Paris now, where the same thing happened with Marine Le Pen, and she's just basically, you know, Marine Le Pen was this brilliant, she's, you know, brilliant kind of mind, you know, whoever pays her to do it. You know, the whole purpose of Marine Le Pen was to divide the right wing and leave Macron with an easy win. And that's how Macron's won. He's just taken advantage of Marine Le Pen's division of the right wing, a bit like what Nigel Farage did with the right wing, and so they've got wise to it, and that's how he kept getting into power. Just Marine Le Pen, like I say, dividing the right wing parties, and so and leaving the left wing with an easy win, and or leaving Macron with an easy win, coming in as a kind of like kind of a liberal, kind of like midway kind of like politician, even though he's far from it, and now we're seeing the French getting wise to that and forming a left wing coalition that has just knocked Macron off his seat. So there seems like there might be a little bit of evolution there, but you know, it's too early, way too early to tell. We've got to see what happens with this left-wing coalition that's coming to power in France. But it seems like the French have got wise to what Macron's been up to, or whether Macron was really involved in how deep that plan was. But I wouldn't be at all surprised it was highly planned and highly orchestrated. But it's you know, back to 2017, that's where Trump came in 2017, and this kind of populist kind of like entry of these candidates that seem to lie out their teeth, and I just don't know. I don't know how they get in, but it's they use aspects of truth, and that's what I wanted to talk about, because ironically Trump came in 2017. I don't know if any of you ever read the books. You know, there was 3 books written by, I think it was Ingersoll Lockwood, and he wrote Laconics for Cult, The Adventures of Baron von Trump in the Underworld. I mean, I'm not looking at these up or anything, so I might have a slight error. I might have even said the names wrong. And The Adventures of Baron von Trump in the Underworld, and he wrote Laconics of Cult, The Adventures of Baron von Trump in the Underworld, and The Last President. And Laconics of Cult is interesting because it's how to create, it's kind of like almost a textbook kind of how to create a cult, and it's from the kind of Masonic perspective of, you know, it opens with this incredibly kind of downgrading kind of opinion of kind of ecclesiastical kind of belief systems and how they can be used to render a rational, intelligent human being into a irrational slave. Literally, how to enslave humanity. I remember when the church formed that. Well, ironically, you know, it's a fly on the wall. It's an instruction manual of how to create a cult, but it's also a fly on the wall kind of window of the last emperor of Rome becoming the first pope. And this would have all be done in Constantinople, in Turkey, because of the massive earthquake, like I say, that happened in 262 across Asia, across Europe, across Africa, 3 days of darkness at the same time, that led to the downfall of the Roman Empire. And they fled Rome. They were decimated. Plagues, famines, earthquakes, storms, it all happened. Disease, you know, everything came to them all at once as a result of the calamities caused by this system. Rome was decimated, and the Romans fled to Constantinople to reform after the Goths, what we say the Goths sacked Rome, the Europeans, the Germans, whatever, they came in and they took advantage of the Romans on their knees, and then the Romans reformed as a religion. And they took the stories of Jesus and they remodeled it to their desires and turned it into a blood sacrifice where this man didn't die to show you there was something higher. You could go to somewhere higher beyond this earth if you could harness peace and wisdom rather than war and anger and rage and blame and superiority and religion. And but so they took the whole stories of Jesus and they turned them into this crazy religion, which suited their purpose to come up with this new control system, which for them was to kind of like battle against the kind of like the control systems of the Zoroastrian kind of beliefs at the time, which was the first kind of monotheology, the first one God kind of like theology that came in the Middle East, in Persia and in those sort of areas, you know, before Muhammad, and so it was kind of countering that, and so it's a fly on the wall perspective of the first Pope, and who previously was the last emperor of Rome, and this new kind of reformation of the creation of this, of just like what happened in the 15th century in Britain with the formation of the Catholic Church, of the Protestant Church or the Church of England, and then he wrote Laconics of Cult that looks at that kind of like that control system, and talks about how you can take 1/3 truth and then you take 1/3 the opposition of truth that destroys everything you've given with one hand. A bit like the news do. You see this kind of thing every day on the news where you see aspects of the truth given and it sounds like they're on your side and they're going to give you the truth, and then they completely cancel the truth with everything they say. They give with one hand, they take away with the other, and on the top of that the other third is agenda. So you get 1/3 truth, 1/3 lies or the cancelling of the truth, and then the other third is the agenda that you're really bringing in. And that's a classic kind of Trump thing, isn't it? It's classic kind of 33-degree Masonic kind of like toolbook. And so he wrote. There was the Laconics of Cult, which, and then you've got the Adventures of Baron von Trump, which is like a 10-year-old boy who, when he travels, when he's not traveling around in the underworld, Agate or whatever you want to call it, where he accesses via these tunnels, he looks like a 10-year-old kid. He's got a pistol under his belt, and he comes highly equipped, and he's not the sort of person you'd want to meet in a dark alley. He's highly able to look after himself, to defend himself, and to preempt any and every situation. He's a great master who appears as a 10-year-old boy, but clearly is so much more, and it's his adventures in the underworld. And it gives you this idea, this sense of longevity of this being that's been around for a very, very long time, that appears as a 10-year-old boy. And then you've got the last president. Now the last president is so interesting because in the last president, the president brings down the country through hyperinflation and working with the anarchists to bring down the country. And so when you come to this point of election, the election doesn't actually happen. And what happens is the democratic process is broken down, or just like in Caesar's time, the republic is broken down. And where the Senate was ruling Rome. Suddenly it was Caesar ruling Rome. Once you remember, the tales of Caesar crossing the Rubicon and bringing his troops into Rome and taking Rome. And once he'd crossed the Rubicon, once he'd crossed the river and got into Rome, it was just like, well, now you're the enemy. One minute you're the hero of Rome, the gladiator, the most powerful man in Rome. And as soon as you cross the Rubicon with your army, suddenly you're the enemy of Rome, and everything is reversed. And when he crossed the Rubicon, he couldn't go back. He was at war with Rome. He had to go forward, and he'd started something that he had to finish, or would finish him. He couldn't retract from that. There was no way back from that. There was only win or lose. And so the last president is the arrival, ultimately, of the Emperor of America and the breaking down of the Republic. And that's sort of that story, and it all seems so fitting. And when you look at what's actually happening, it's almost like textbook example of the Grand Masonic plan that's underway here. Massive power that's being potentially taken by in this story. If this story is really what's happening, no one knows what's happening. Everyone's kind of like that. Trump is very powerful. I've been watching the kind of like Biden fail absolutely, just massively. It's a total joke, and it's to such a degree that you could never imagine that they could actually put him up as a candidate, knowing that this is just going to rile up the people and make them angry and lead into a state of revolution. It's like he's been chosen to destroy the Republic, to destroy the democratic process and take people into a state of chaos where the path is open for the path of a dictator, of an emperor, the Emperor of America, and that's effectively the Emperor of the world. With the type of power that America holds, it's we're at that time now, where anything can happen. Everything is beyond belief that's happening, and that all those people that push one agenda or the other, well, they just don't know which way to go with it now. And if you're really, really radical about some idea that you know not to be true, generally most people won't put their hands up and say I was wrong. They just retreat into a belief system. And so now we're at that point. We're at that big junction now where we're going to see what happens. Is 2024 going to be the big flyby? Certainly, every year since 2017, 2018 has been bigger than before, been more massive. We're kind of in it now. We're in the big shift. Whether we like it or not, we're in the big shift. And no one knows what's going to happen here. Nobody knows. It's uncharted times. But what you can know is the side of the fence that you're on in this, and whether you're waging peace in this, or whether you're waging war, whether you belong to some politician and their agenda in this, or whether you're free thinking and are sovereign unto yourself and can make rational decisions without having them being made for you, can see what's going on and navigate through this. And that's what this times can be about now. It's navigating through this. It's massive times that we're in now. Absolutely massive times now. The storms, this season is just opening up in terms of tornado season. It's just beginning now. And it's going to be massive. And you're going to watch these volcanoes, watch this space, and see some of the biggest volcanoes you've ever seen going off. And the kind of like the effects of all this planetary movements in such close proximity on our humanity is going to be interesting how this affects us directly. Like I say, in 262, when they came down from their mountain places, they had no memory of who they were. They were just as babbling fools. They couldn't even remember their names. They had no notion of where they came from, as if they were completely brand new. Their guides and gods had been ripped clean from them. They'd gone because of the decisions they'd chosen to make that led to this situation. So move forward through this time with big golden rings of light, big golden rings of protection. Try to see the bigger picture that's unfolding. Try to keep your glass as empty as possible and have a big understanding of what's happening as best you can, but know that you haven't got all the answers. None of us have. All this model I offer you here is only a window on it. I don't know for sure how any of this is going to go, but we're in it now. We're absolutely in it, and maybe this isn't going to be the biggest year. Maybe it is. We truly do not know, because we've just not, in our lifetimes, we've never seen a big flyby for most of us, we've never seen a big flyby in the July-August period, you know, of the scale that we're kind of like, that we might be expecting. So it's big times, big adjustments to get through, big time to be cosmically aligned, big time to be humble and peaceful, big time to wage peace against an agenda that wants to wage war, and to know which side of the fence you're on, and to have the courage to speak your truth right now. It's a really, really powerful time to have the courage to speak your truth. So whatever you do, however you're going to go there, whatever you're going to get up to, I just wish you so much luck in your grand adventure. And I'm sorry I haven't been making that many videos lately. Like I say, I've had to put a bit of time into kind of sorting things out on my home front, and being a bit more public, and doing some talks around Glastonbury with the, like I say, I did a talk with the Positive Living group in Glastonbury, and got involved in just trying to get my message out in the UK a little bit. But like I say, UK is very different, where America is very stuck in terms of its religious beliefs. Britain is very stuck in its doubting. We're ruled by doubt rather than Christianity. We doubt everything here. We just don't believe anything that's going on. We just know you'll very rarely find an environmentalist who will ever consider the massive increase in volcanoes. They'll just go down the road of intellectual ridicule. And that's kind of like the biggest part of how we operate in this country. And in America, but people in America are much more open to big ideas. But like I say, most of them just get pulled back in by Christianity. It's like it's something they can't break the orbit of, because of fear that, well, because of the nature of ecclesiastical beliefs, the nature of how we get attached to religious belief in a very fundamental way, that it breaks us from our rational intelligence to know better. Anyway, so it made me exhausted. Just every time I make these videos, it utterly kills me and exhausts me. Just talking about this content now kills me. So I'm going to stop here and just wish you well, and navigate as best you can through these places. Keep your divine connection. Work with Great Spirit. Ask for help and invite help in. Try and stay in peace when the world around you is panicking and losing their head or losing their heads. Try and hold your head together. Try and hold it together. Be the rock in the equation. Try and be as solid as you can. Doesn't matter if you die. Really doesn't. What right now matters is that you live wonderfully, and you speak your truths, and you open yourself to the abundance and the opportunities, the wonderful opportunities that could now come your way. through peaceful endeavour. Thank you so much. So much love. Honey in the heart. 1,000 thank yous. I'll see you next time. Ciao.